Do you remember the warm crackle of AM radio in the 1970s? It was our safe haven in a chaotic world. But behind those comforting vinyl records hide secrets you never knew. Which beloved friendship anthem was sung by a man fighting a terrifying hidden addiction? What Oscar-winning ballad took 33 agonizing takes just to get the first word right? And which massive hit actually made its own band furious? These are not just classic melodies, they are the beautiful, tragic stories of our youth. Today we are counting down 10 songs that will instantly take every 70s kid back in time. Number 10, American Pie by Don McLean, 1971. Do you remember dropping a coin into a jukebox and watching that little arm lift a 7-inch record into place? It was the 70s. We did not skip a song with the tap of a finger. We waited. And no song made us wait quite like this one. We had no idea we were actually singing a funeral hymn. Don McLean was a 13-year-old paperboy on a freezing winter morning when he read the headline that broke his heart. February 3rd, 1959. A small plane had gone down in an Iowa field and taking 3 young rock and roll stars with it. Buddy Holly, the Big Bopper, and Richie Valens. McLean would forever call it the day the music died.
Now for 10 years we've been on our own.
Years later, he poured that childhood grief into an 8-minute poem about a nation losing its innocence. But in the studio, nobody believed in it. Producer Ed Freeman later confessed that when he first heard the finished track, he was certain there was no way on earth it could ever be a hit. Even the star-studded chorus that swelled behind that famous "Bye Bye Miss American Pie" quietly hid future legends among its voices.
Man, I dig those rhythm and blues.
Ed Freeman could not have been more wrong. On January 15th, 1972, it climbed all the way to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. It held that crown for 4 straight weeks. Even the star-studded choir credited on that famous "Bye Bye Miss American Pie" became its own enduring mystery. Producer Ed Freeman insisted the voices belonged to folk legends like Pete Seeger and the Taylor Brothers, though McLean himself has always kept the truth just out of reach. But the true magic was in how we listened. The song was simply too long for one side of a record, so the label sliced it in half. Right in the middle of the story, a 70s kid had to get up, walk across to the room, and flip the vinyl over just to hear the ending. That is how much we loved it.
We all got up to dance.
Before we move on to the next song, let me know where you're listening from. Share the name of your hometown with pride. It's the place where so many of your memories and these timeless songs came to life. Number 9, Fire and Rain by James Taylor, 1970.
Suzanne, the plans we made put an end to you.
Press your ear against a pillow and imagine the faint static of a hidden transistor radio late at night. That is where most of us first heard that warm, comforting voice singing about flying machines and lost friends. We all thought it was just a beautiful, relaxing melody. We had no idea the crushing weight the man was actually carrying. The Suzanne he mentions right at the start, that was Suzanne Schnurr, a dear childhood friend. While James was in London trying to kickstart his career, she took her own life. His friends actually hid the tragic news from him for 6 whole months, terrified it would ruin his focus in the studio. When he finally found out, he poured all that unresolved grief into the very first verse.
I've seen fire and I've seen rain.
The rest of the track, well, that was James confronting his own demons. He finished writing it inside a psychiatric hospital while battling severe depression and addiction. It is just him, his acoustic guitar, and a raw honesty that American radio simply did not know how to process. But the listeners knew. It climbed to number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100, essentially launching the entire singer-songwriter era of the 70s.
Well, now I've seen fire and I've seen rain.
People connected to his pain, even if they bought into that silly urban legend about his girlfriend dying in a plane crash. Looking back, James gave us something incredibly brave. He took his darkest hospital nights and turned them into a lullaby for a generation trying to heal. He taught us that it is okay to fall apart, long before society was ready to have that conversation.
Seen lonely times when I could not find a friend.
Number 8, The Way We Were by Barbra Streisand, 1973.
Light the corners of my mind.
Have you ever found a faded photograph tucked inside an old drawer and suddenly felt a heavy lump in your throat? That is exactly what this melody does to a 70s kid. Before it became a massive Hollywood anthem, it was just a fragile idea in the mind of composer Marvin Hamlisch. He intentionally wrote it in a major key, a brilliant trick to hide the heartbreaking ending of the film from the audience.
Of the smiles we left behind.
But getting it right in the studio was a grueling battle. Barbara actually asked to change the very first word of the song, altering a single note that shifted the entire mood. When she finally stepped up to the microphone at RCA Recording Studios, she did not just sing it once. She poured her heart out for 33 consecutive takes in a single day, chasing the perfect shade of melancholy.
What's too painful to remember?
All that emotional exhaustion paid off. It captured the #1 spot on the Billboard Hot 100, completely enchanting a nation. To understand why it takes us back so vividly, you have to remember the 46th Academy Awards. Back then, American families huddled around one single television set in the living room. Watching this song win an Oscar felt like a shared national moment of reflection. It taught our generation a painful but beautiful lesson, that sometimes remembering the past is safer than trying to relive it.
That it was all so simple then.
Number 7, Landslide by Fleetwood Mac, 1975.
I took my love and I took it down.
September 1973. A young waitress is staring at the snow-covered Rocky Mountains in Aspen, Colorado. She is 27 years old, broke. Her musical duo with her boyfriend Lindsey Buckingham is failing, and their relationship is slowly falling apart. In about 5 minutes, looking out at that freezing landscape, Stevie Nicks poured all her fear of getting older and failing into a song. It was not meant for the radio. It was a diary entry of a woman completely lost in life.
'Cause I built my life.
3 months later, destiny called. Mick Fleetwood invited them to join his band. When they finally recorded this track, they stripped away the usual heavy rock production. Just Lindsey playing a delicate acoustic guitar, quietly supporting the very woman he was losing in real life. It is stunningly bare and deeply heartbreaking.
But time makes you bolder.
What is truly fascinating is how this song survived. In 1975, it was just an album track, almost buried. It took 22 years, until their live album The Dance in 1997, for it to become an official hit single. Think about that. Today, a song lives or dies in 24 hours. Back then, a masterpiece could wait 2 decades to find its moment. For anyone who grew up in the 70s, this track is our ultimate companion. It teaches us that getting older is terrifying, but there is profound beauty in letting the changes happen.
And if you see my reflection.
Number 6, Without You by Harry Nilsson, 1971.
If living is without you.
Listen closely to that opening piano chord. It is the sound of a broken heart. We have all cried to this ballad after a tough breakup. It is an absolute vocal triumph. But what most people never knew is that this beautiful track holds the darkest and most heartbreaking secret of the entire decade.
I can't live.
Harry Nilsson did not write this. He heard it playing at a party and actually thought it was an obscure Beatles track. It was really written by Pete Ham and Tom Evans, 2 brilliant young musicians in a band called Badfinger. Harry took their quiet little song and, with his producer, turned it into a massive orchestral explosion. It skyrocketed to #1 across the globe. Even Paul McCartney called it the killer song of all time. You would think Pete and Tom were set for life, but the music industry is rarely that fair. Due to a messy web of bad contracts and missing money, the 2 writers saw almost nothing from their biggest triumph. The financial ruin and legal battles completely broke their spirits. In 1975, Pete took his own life at age 27, leaving behind a child he would never meet. 8 years later, after a bitter argument over the royalties for this exact song, Tom did the very same thing. Every time we hear that soaring chorus today, we are not just listening to a sad love story. We are listening to a haunting echo of two men who gave the world a beautiful gift and lost absolutely everything in return. What's the first memory that comes to mind whenever you hear this song? Share it in the comment. You might discover someone else listening today who holds the very same memory. Number 5, Rainy Days and Mondays by the Carpenters, 1971.
What I got they used to call the blues.
Picture a lonely roadside diner on a gray morning. The coffee is bitter, and someone just dropped a quarter into the jukebox to play this exact melody. Back in the 70s, we all used this song to complain about going to work or feeling under the weather. We thought it was just a comforting, relatable pop track. It actually arrived as a simple demo tape from writers Paul Williams and Roger Nichols. Richard Carpenter heard it and immediately knew it belonged to his little sister. He intentionally stripped back the massive arrangements, leaving only that weeping harmonica and a quiet piano to support her. When Karen stepped to the microphone, she was barely 21 years old. Her voice carried a heavy, unexplained sorrow that mesmerized the entire country. The track floated straight to number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100. We bought the gold records and sang along in our cars, completely unaware of the quiet battle she was fighting behind closed doors.
Rainy days and Mondays always get me down.
Decades later, after we lost Karen, those lyrics took on a devastating new meaning. That feeling of always being down, it was not just a passing Monday mood. It was a reflection of a pain society did not understand yet. Today, this beautiful, soft rock treasure takes us right back to those simpler days. But it also breaks our hearts just a little bit. It is a gentle reminder to listen closer to the people we love, because sometimes the prettiest voices carry the heaviest burdens.
What I feel is come and gone before.
Number 4, You Have Got a Friend by Carole King, 1971.
You need some love and care.
Think back to March 1972. Your family was probably huddled around the only color television in the house, watching the Grammy Awards. That night, something incredibly rare happened. 2 artists won huge awards for the exact same track. Carole King took home Song of the Year, while James Taylor won for his vocal performance. It felt like the ultimate celebration of pure friendship. But there is a heavy shadow hanging over this gentle masterpiece. Carole wrote this song almost effortlessly during her Tapestry sessions. Down the hall, James was recording his own album. When he heard her play it, he loved it so much he quietly recorded his own version before even asking her permission. Thankfully, she was thrilled.
Winter, spring, summer, or fall.
Here's the part that breaks your heart. While James was singing those comforting words about always being there to help, he was secretly losing a terrifying battle with heroin addiction. He was completely falling apart behind the scenes.
All you got to do is call.
The public had no clue. We just heard a flawless acoustic arrangement and a promise of loyalty. The song became a massive #1 hit because the 70s were a turbulent time and we all desperately needed a friend. Today, knowing what James was going through, the song stops being a simple campfire tune. It becomes a stunning reminder that sometimes the people offering the most comfort to others are the ones who need it the most.
You've got a friend.
Number 3, He Ain't Heavy, He Is My Brother by the Hollies, 1970. Do you remember standing in line at the grocery store with your mother, staring at those little donation cans sitting on the checkout counter? The ones with a faded picture of a boy carrying another child on his back? Most of us just dropped our spare coins into the slot without a second thought. We never knew that simple image was about to become one of the most powerful anthems in music history. The phrase actually came from an orphanage in Nebraska called Boys Town. Back in 1918, a young boy was carrying his friend who wore heavy leg braces due to polio. When a priest asked if the burden was too much, the boy simply replied, "He is not heavy. He is my brother."
With a many winding
When the Hollies decided to record a song based on this pure moment of humanity, they needed a piano player to hold the emotional weight of the track. They hired a completely unknown session musician named Red Dwight, paying him a measly £12 for his time. You probably know that struggling young man today as Elton John.
It's a long, long road.
His delicate piano work lifted the entire production. The song soared to number 7 on the Billboard Hot 100 and hit number 1 in the UK. It resonated so deeply because the world was exhausted from the chaos of the late 60s, and we desperately needed a reminder of our shared compassion. Today, this beautiful ballad does more than just bring a tear to our eyes. It takes us back to a time when community meant everything, a gentle promise from our generation that we are all just walking each other home.
From which there is no return.
Number 2, If You Leave Me Now by Chicago, 1976.
If you leave me now, you'll take away the...
Today, if you want to hear a song, you just tap a glass screen. But back in the fall of 1976, you had to pick up a phone, wait on hold for 20 minutes, and beg the local radio DJ to play this exact track. We could not get enough of it. But behind closed doors, the band who recorded it was actually furious. For almost a decade, Chicago was a powerhouse rock band built on heavy brass and gritty energy. Then, bass player Peter Cetera wrote a desperate, heartbreaking plea to his wife as their marriage was falling apart. Producer James William Guercio squeezed it into their 10th album at the very last minute. They brought in a lush string orchestra, pushing the band's trademark horns way into the background. The brass players actually fought to turn their instruments up in the mix. They thought the ballad was too soft, a complete betrayal of their rock identity.
Could we let it slip away?
Well, the public disagreed. It rocketed to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100, holding that crown for 2 solid weeks and handing them their very first Grammy. The irony is staggering. The track that delivered their absolute highest commercial success was the one that sparked years of bitter arguments.
Could we end it all this way?
In the end, Peter Cetera could not save his marriage, but his real, raw pain gave every 70s teenager a safe place to cry over their own first heartbreaks. It instantly takes us back to those lonely nights looking out a bedroom window, wondering if that special someone was ever coming back. It is a beautiful, tragic reminder that sometimes our greatest triumphs come from the things we resist the most.
Mama, I just got to have your love.
Number 1, Cats in the Cradle by Harry Chapin, 1974.
And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon.
Time is a quiet thief that steals the years while we are busy making a living. Every parent over 60 knows that painful truth. Back in the mid-70s, Harry Chapin gave us the ultimate warning about putting work before family. The crazy thing is, he did not even write the original words. His wife Sandra wrote them as a poem. She was watching Harry constantly pack his bags for another tour, missing their young son growing up. It was a gentle, loving plea for him to stay home. Harry read it, felt a knot in his stomach, and turned it into music.
When you're coming home, Dad, I don't know when.
The track hit number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in December 1974. It struck a raw nerve across America because it forced an entire generation of busy dads to look in the mirror.
My boy was just like me.
But real life does not always give you a second chance. 7 years later, on a July afternoon in 1981, Harry was driving to perform a free charity concert. He spent his whole life trying to feed hungry people. Tragically, a heavy truck struck his car on the highway. He was only 38. He left behind a wife and 5 children, kids he would never get to see grow old. Fate turned his biggest hit into a devastating reality. Today, when us 70s kids hear that acoustic guitar, we do not just hear a classic pop song. We hear a heartbreaking reminder to pick up the phone and call our loved ones before the line goes silent forever.
When you're coming home, son, I don't know when, but we'll get together.
Think back to flipping that 7-inch record, an unknown piano player earning £12, and a simple poem that turned into a tragic reality. These tracks are much more than fading echoes on a vinyl. They are the emotional blueprints of our youth. They prove that while the 1970s are long gone, the feelings they gave us will never truly leave. If you want to keep this time machine running, make sure to subscribe and stay with us. Before I sign off for the night, tell me, which of these records did you play until the grooves completely wore out? Leave your memories down below.